From the Ministry of the Presidency in Georgetown, this is This Week with the President, with Janelle Carter.
Welcome to another edition of This Week with the President, a weekly news magazine which provides you with an in-depth look at the policies, programs, and work of the President of Guyana in his quest to realize the good life for all Guyanese. I'm your host, Janelle Carter. In the news this week, Guyana congratulates new Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister, pomp and ceremony as Guyana credits new EU ambassador, Brazil in full support of the integrity of Guyana's borders. A public media policy will not and must not interfere with the functioning of private media. We begin by telling you that President David Granger joined leaders of the region in congratulating Dr. Keith Rowley as the new Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The head of state told Dr. Rowley in a letter dated September 9th that the people of Trinidad and Tobago have clearly demonstrated their confidence in his ability to lead his country on the path to further development and prosperity. Dr. Rowley's party, the People's National Movement, was able to secure 22 of 41 seats, thereby defeating the People's Partnership led by former Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar. President Granger expressed the hope that Guyana can work closely with the new TNT government as the two countries continue to work to deepen bilateral ties. Long prison sentences for petty misdemeanors can hardly be seen as a solution for the rehabilitation and development of the nation's youths, even as the judicial system continues to be challenged with its caseload. More so, having a significant percentage of a nation's youth population locked away behind bars when they are most needed to turn the wheels of development is not only impractical, but a disservice to the country as well. Alarmed by the fact that 25% of the country's youth population are imprisoned, President David Granger wasted no time in using his discretion to grant amnesty to 50 youths who were charged with nonviolent and non-cocaine-related crimes.
People who stole cell phones and small amounts of marijuana, I said they'd be better off at school than in jail. Some of them were quite young, 20, 21 years old. Yes, I don't believe that, personally, it is not something that the Cabinet has ruled on, and I always consult Cabinet. I don't believe that personally people should be given custodial sentences for small amounts of marijuana. Cocaine is different, but I could never accept that a mother of children would be separated and put in jail for small amounts of marijuana.
Petty offenders are one of the major causes of prison overcrowding, and the President believes that legislative changes must be made to ensure that more focus is placed on reform for this category of offenders rather than custodial sentences.
The law will have to be changed, and we're going to be working on that in 2016. But you're right, it's a contributory factor to overcrowding. And I've used my discretion to grant amnesty to particularly young persons and women who have been convicted for what I would call misdemeanors. So we're going to ease up the pressure, maybe 50 or 60 at the time. More will be coming at Christmas. Some of them will be home for Christmas.
In an effort to ease the overcrowding at prisons, the administration plans to grant amnesty to petty offenders before every Independence anniversary and possibly at Christmas time, looking at an average of 50 to 60 prisoners at a time. We took our cameras to the streets of Georgetown to hear what citizens had to say about this.
I think it's a good gesture on behalf of the President to release the young people, but I need them to get some program for them. Either they do some community service, they put them into some sort of institution where they're going to do some sort of learning so they could be really beneficial to the society. So, because you cannot get the opportunity to be released after you do a crime and you didn't do back nothing for the community.
It has advantages and disadvantages. By releasing them here, I think some of them might have learned a lesson and they would not commit a crime again. But then too, some of them can never tell, could go back and do the same thing again. So it has disadvantages and advantages.
If you take them out, at least they could come back and go back to school, or they could do something with their life instead of just staying in jail and just taking up space or something.
I do not agree with this, but if it is permitted by the president, well then there should be certain measures taken in place. There should be programs to, guide these prisoners, because remember they were exposed to various crimes, and I don't think they should be just exposed to the public like that. So that's my view.
It's not a bad idea, providing they have system to work with them to make sure that when you release them, they don't go back to the things that they did that put them in there for the force place. That's one. Two, and also there should be community service. Releasing them only is not the best idea. Give them community service, a 5-hour a week or 5-hour whatever community service. The area that they may be living in or something needs cleaning up, and that can help to bring back Georgetown and help to, or there's other things like schools need repairing and stuff like that. They may have some skills, let them do some community service for that.
40 of the young people who were pardoned soon after President Granger took office were enrolled in the United States Embassy's Skill and Knowledge for Youth Employment program. The intention is that people who benefit from presidential pardons will be able to access training opportunities or be able to return to school and positively contribute to society. Guyana is assured of the support of its southern neighbor, Brazil, insofar as maintaining peace and diplomacy in the region. This commitment was announced by Ambassador Lino Pupa de Paulo at a reception in commemoration of Brazil's 193rd independence anniversary.
I firmly believe that in the 21st century, there is no place for all the territorial disputes. Guyana has a right, and I agree that the government has a duty to seek the development of the country, and the common goal should be the welfare of all people in the region. South America is a place of peace and continue to be.
Since President Granger assumed office, the territorial threat from neighboring Venezuela has been a pressing issue for the new administration. However, Guyana has received overwhelming support from the Commonwealth, CARICOM, and the international community at large.
Guyana has a right and duty to pursue its economic development, the development of its resources for the good of its people. South America must be a zone of peace. We are therefore encouraged by Brazil's determination not to accept any disturbance of its borders.
President Granger said that Guyana is pleased to have found a true friend and ally in the government and people of Brazil. He said that he is happy that both countries share and understand the importance of the sacredness of borders on the continent. The two countries renewed their pledge to build a free society and a stable, lasting democracy.
We, the people, are the ones responsible for the fate of our countries. And for that, we must unite our life projects with the fate of our countries in search of an egalitarian and just society, where everyone has the same rights and opportunities.
Bilateral relations between Guyana and Brazil dates back to 1968, and over the years, these relations have only been made stronger. The two countries continue to maintain strong bilateral cooperations, especially in the area of infrastructure, energy, and transportation. Talks on the way forward on these matters were held as recent as July this year, when President Granger met with Brazil's leader, President Dilma Rousseff, at the Summit of Presidents of Mercosur. In keeping with the president's passion for symbols and nationalism and upholding customs and practices, new diplomatic officers are welcomed with all the customary pomp and flair under the new administration. This is a common practice around the world, whereby diplomats, after they are accredited, are taken to a national monument with national significance, where they pay respect and homage to the country in which they have been appointed to serve. Last week, this custom was observed when ambassadors of Greece and South Korea presented their letters of credence to the president. The most recent diplomat to carry out this tradition is the ambassador and head of the European Union delegation to Guyana, Arneg Viditek, who earlier this week handed over his letters of credence to President Granger. The new ambassador's accreditation cemented a 40-year-old partnership that Guyana shares with the EU.
This important partnership has impacted on Guyana's economy to a great extent. This is especially so within the context of trade and development assistance, as well as in the realization of the goals of poverty eradication and sustainable development.
Ghana's long-standing partnership with the European Union has resulted in significant benefits, especially in trade and development assistance. The EU has crafted a cooperation agenda to meet new challenges such as climate change, food security, regional integration, state fragility, and aid effectiveness, all of which impacts heavily on Ghana's development.
Guyana has always played a prominent role in regional and international relations, especially in formulating international development policies. Indeed, this year we mark 40 years since representatives from close to 80 African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries met here in Georgetown to sign an agreement which created the ACP group of states and became the group's fundamental charter.
June 16th marks 40 years since the beginning of the country's partnership with the Union. Committed to the tenets of transparency, accountability, and good governance, President David Granger is fully prepared to support a policy that will see the establishment of a well-managed public information system that is accessible to all Guyanese and not just those on the coast.
Many countries have similar systems, but you must realize that many of the media houses are based on the coastline or in Georgetown itself. So if something occurs at Karasabay, something occurs at the Wariwanao, something occurs at Maruka, many of the private media houses cannot cover those events. So if there's a disaster, if there's maybe a threat of a flood or there's an air crash, many of the private media cannot know until they're told that.
This public information system will be a conduit through which the government can reach out to the citizenry and transmit information on matters of national importance. However, this would not preclude from or interfere with the local media fraternity carrying out its mandate. The President underscored the importance of fair and ethical reportage, particularly media entities, and said that sanctions should be imposed for the deliberate peddling of misinformation.
I want to see the press as a community regulating itself. In other words, if a reporter misbehaves or deliberately publishes falsehoods, I expect his or her peers to, particularly through the Guyana Press Association, to sanction that reporter. So I see two branches of the communications system. One is the public information system, and this is what I believe the Prime Minister was speaking about, and he's correct, and I support him, that we have an obligation to report what the government is doing simply because the private media cannot cover the country as a whole. And on the second hand, I have no intention of regulating the private media. There must be sanctions to the law. If they libel or commit any breach of the law, well, they will face the law. But as far as I'm concerned, it is largely a self-regulatory body. The state is different, but the private media must regulate themselves, and they're free.
The President said that his administration will continue to promote and defend press freedom, but that freedom comes with a responsibility that should not be shrinked by media practitioners. We'll take a look inside the President's diary. Over the past weekend, President David Granger took time out to meet and interact with orphans and vulnerable children who were part of the CIOG's annual Fun Day. The event catered for children around the country. Strengthening bilateral ties was the focus of a meeting which was held between President Granger and China's ambassador to Guyana, His Excellency Zhang Limin, at the Ministry of the Presidency. Also, founder of Damar Bank Limited, Dr. Yisu Prasad, and Chief Executive Officer Parvin Dev paid a courtesy call on the President earlier in the week. That meeting was followed by a visit from Guyana's top Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination and Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate performers. The high achievers, who hail from schools around the country, were afforded the opportunity to meet and interact with the country's leader. Later that day, delegates vying for the coveted title of the 2015 Miss Heritage pageant visited President Granger at his office. The 10 delegates are slated to compete in the pageant later this month as part of Indigenous Heritage Month activities. Additionally, on Thursday, the head of state met with the executive members of the Guyana Small Businesses Association and the members of St. Francis Community Developers Project. Before we go today, let's take a closer look at President David Granger's military influences. It is no secret that President Granger is proud of his military career and the value he places on duty and service to country. This week, we will take a look at how his military career impacts the way in which he leads the nation. His military career has no doubt embedded in him the desire to serve and saw him leaving his footprints on the shores of Europe, the jungle of the Amazon, Africa, North America, and Asia. President Granger received his military training at the Mons Officers Cadet School and the School of Infantry in the United Kingdom, the Jungle Warfare Instruction Center in Brazil, and the Army Command and Staff College in Nigeria. The commandant of the Army Command and Staff College, Jaji, Nigeria, prophetically described President Granger, a young officer back in 1978, as a very high-caliber officer who was easily the best student on the course and as one who has all the qualities to reach the top of his army and his country. His years of training have definitely equipped him to be a strong leader not only for uniformed members, but for the entire nation.
You might not all end up being president, but I can tell you this. When you look back, you'll be glad that you started your working life in the profession of arms. You never expect everyone to remain soldier for the entire life, but the experience that you gain in this school and in this course, in your respective courses, those of you who came from the East and from this, will last you throughout your life.
Right! President John Salute! Present!
The discipline instilled during his training has also fashioned the way he plans to take Guyana and its people forward with his 2020 vision.
Leadership, of course, means the ability to achieve combined effort, using, if possible, persuasion and conviction. A leader is someone who can achieve the greatest combined effectiveness in order to achieve the mission which has been assigned to him. And he uses that authority, not necessarily in a punitive way, not necessarily in a coercive way, but in an inspirational way.
President Granger joined the GDF as a cadet officer in 1965 and was commissioned as second lieutenant in 1966. He became the commander of the force in 1979 when he was promoted to brigadier general. His service to the local military came to an end upon his retirement in 1992. Brigadier Granger also held the chairmanship of the Central Intelligence Committee, co-chairmanship of Border and National Security Committee, and was a member of the Guyana Defense Board, National Drug Law Enforcement Committee, and the Disciplined Forces Commission. That brings us to the end of this edition of This Week with the President. For regular updates on the Ministry of the Presidency, go to our website at www.motp.gov.gy. Like our Facebook page, Ministry of the Presidency, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MOTP Guyana. I'm Janelle Carter, reminding you to be a good citizen of your country. Goodbye for now.